So I'm going to read, I think, 3 things, and hopefully will be about 10 minutes-ish. 2 really short ones. It's going to be dirty. So I've been reading this a lot. For some reason, they're reading this that John and Melinda organized. It's a really old poem that I'm now calling Manstruation. If we did it, you can bet there wouldn't be any rags. We'd call it our load, and we'd equate petty flow with enhanced masculinity. As children, we'd play games with it, smear it on staircase walls, grease our baseball bats with it, use it for some kind of contest. As adults, we'd get it all over the sheets and expect someone else to clean it up. Now I'm going to read a sort of a historical, current events, whatever, historical information poem about pre-exposure prophylaxis for HIV, which is, well, it says it in the poem. So this is untitled because it's part of a sequence where the poems just are sort of one after the other. The advent of PrEP has changed my life. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis, a pill you take once a day to prevent HIV infection. Yes, there is such a thing. Can you imagine? Oh, I should tell you that POS means HIV positive and neg means HIV negative. Yes, there is such a thing. Can you imagine? There is now a whole generation of young men, neg on PrEP, who want to fuck POS daddies. They know POS bottoms are hotter fucks. I know that sounds A, offensive, and B, like bullshit. But it's true. I believe it's true. I know I'm a hotter fuck. I know it has something to do with being POS, and I take no offense. So now I'm going to read, whoops, that was my placeholder, my bookmark. So this should take up the remainder of my time. It's from that book, Drug and Disease Free. It's actually the last poem in the book that John mentioned. And a lot of the stuff that I've published in my 2 books is really old. And then it often talks about things that happened even longer ago than that, as I was discussing with my friends back there. So this is just called Fall 1981. That night, Steve and I sat on a bench on West 5th Street along the edge of Seabreeze Park and polished off the last 6-pack. And we said goodnight, and he went home, and I started walking down Surf Avenue past Brightwater Towers, carrying a brown paper bag full of empties. And the phone in the booth, 1981, right? We're talking about technology in fiction and poetry. Carrying a brown paper bag full of empties, and the phone in the booth was ringing. And I picked it up, and this guy said, "I want to lick your balls." Which I thought was funny, because it seemed like he should have said, "I want to suck your cock," or something like that. I mean, licking my balls seems so half-assed. But who's I to argue with his predilections? Whoever he was. And anyway, I was so addicted to answering phones like this. There could be like 4 other poems about that. I was so addicted to answering phones like this that I didn't hang up, although I don't remember what I said or how our conversation went. But he told me he was under the boardwalk, just past the handball courts on West 5th Street. So I went back and I found him there. And it was the first time I'd ever gone under the boardwalk like this. And he was a big guy, I mean, heavy set. And he was wearing a parka, which was kind of weird because it wasn't cold, and a knitted cap, and his pants were down around his ankles, and he was jerking off and it was dark under there. And I was a little bit afraid, but more excited, like I'd been waiting for this all along. So I laid the bag of empties on the cold sand and kneeled in front of him and took it in my mouth. And I didn't care if it was clean or dirty, I just really wanted his dick in my mouth. And while I was sucking him, he asked me to put my finger in his ass, and I did. It was disgusting, but I did it anyway. I just wanted to do as much as I could. Who knew when I would get a chance like this again? And then he asked me to fuck him, and I was anxious about this because I'd never done it before, and more than that, it was a big thing. I mean, a big step, a kind of no going back. And anyway, I wasn't sure I could get hard enough because I had trouble getting hard enough when I was anxious, and I was anxious right now, what with it being under the boardwalk late at night with a stranger who cruised me on the fucking payphone, for Christ's sake. But I wanted to fuck him on some level. I mean, not him exactly, but I wanted to fuck someone, to know finally what that was like. So I went behind him, and I wasn't totally hard, really, but somehow I managed to get inside. And it was like I was separate from myself. I pumped, but I didn't really feel anything, like I was fucking him with someone else's dick. And I don't remember if I came or not, but he howled when he came, and it was hideous, but also funny. And I pulled out fast and zipped up, and he pulled up his pants, and I wondered what to do next, now that I was starting to feel dirty and wrong. So I tried to make some small talk. I asked him his name, which was John, of all things. And I asked him if he did this a lot, by which I mean get fucked under the boardwalk. And he said, yeah, well, you know, there are some numbers you try. By which I guess he meant numbers to payphones, which didn't really answer my question, but I didn't pursue it. I just said, well, take care, and I went back out onto the street. The pink glow of the sodium lamps and cars parked along the curb and the sidewalk deserted, and I headed back across West Fifth Street and up Surf Avenue. My gaze, this is all in Coney Island, by the way, my gaze fixed on that phone booth like it was the revolver on the coffee table. And at some point, I realized I had left my bag of empties lying in the sand under the boardwalk, and I thought, shit, I didn't mean to litter. And then I thought how absurd that was under the circumstances when I just fucked the man under the boardwalk. And when I got home, I always feel like Sam Amidon when I read this. Under the circumstances, when I just fucked the man under the boardwalk, and when I got home, I went right to the bathroom and washed my dick with soap and water in the sink. And I wrapped it in tissue paper for some reason before popping it back in my underwear and zipping up my pants. My mom was living in Florida by then with her boyfriend, and the backyard swimming pool, and Pick and Pay, and Winn-Dixie, and Jackson's Ice Cream Parlor on South Federal Highway. So now it was just me and the dog and the plants on the windowsill of our fifth-floor apartment in a state-subsidized middle-income co-op on Surf Avenue, across the street from the police station and the firehouse, and down the street from the Bonomo factory where they made Turkish taffy. And I thought this living situation was fine, since I was 20 years old, a sophomore in college. But when I had Thanksgiving dinner with my roommate's family the previous November, his mother said she thought it was criminal that my mother had left me home alone like that. But anyway, after I washed my dick, I went into the living room and put on my headphones and put Frank Sinatra on the stereo, disc 1 of the Trilogy album, where he sings old standards to new Billy May arrangements, and it fucking kicks ass. And I lay on the living room carpet, and the dog came over and sniffed my crotch, and I thought, my God, he knows. And I blared Frank Sinatra into my headphones.